Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Strengthened cooperation in education and trade and ease of travel for Jamaicans are some of the discussions during Prime Minister Andrew Holness's historic visit to Namibia. Javon Keys has more.
History is being made as Prime Minister Andrew Holness becomes the first Jamaican head of government to make an official state visit to Namibia in Africa. Shortly after arriving, Prime Minister Holness engaged in a courtesy call with Deputy Prime Minister Netembo Nandi-Daitwa, followed by a short meeting with the President, Dr. Haig Gingob. Today, the Prime Minister signed an MOU to strengthen collaboration with Namibia in sports.
In this framework agreement, the Jamaican government has offered several scholarships to Namibian students tenable at the University of the West Indies Mona campus and the University of Technology in specializations ranging from law and sports management to business administration. Indeed, educational exchanges are one main area in which we have been able to prove the value and importance of people-to-people connections in strengthening relations between our two countries. I am therefore heartened that today we will sign a memorandum of understanding on cooperation in the field of sport.
Prime Minister Holness says there's also been a good relationship between the countries in education, and he looks forward to that continuing.
It was always clear to me that a country's development is dependent on a dynamic education sector that can support productivity and growth. I can fully identify with the wisdom of Nelson Mandela when he noted that, and I quote, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." I therefore look forward to our collaboration in this area as we continue to educate and empower our youth, helping them to improve their talents and equipping them with the skills and expertise to make meaningful contributions to national development.
In the meantime, Prime Minister Holness hopes to forge greater ties in trade.
In a context where trade and investment are significant drivers of economic growth and development, it is important that we make every effort to strengthen our ties in these areas. I am pleased, therefore, that I will have the opportunity to meet with members of the Namibian private sector. It is certainly my hope that this encounter will give impetus to our business and trading relations.
A MOU will be signed to facilitate political consultations, and Jamaicans will also benefit from visa-free travel.
Likewise, Jamaica shares this strategic approach to the conduct of our international relations and cooperation. I therefore welcome the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding on the establishment of political consultation between our two foreign ministries. I am pleased also at your announcement, Mr. President, that Namibia has granted visa waivers for Jamaicans seeking to visit your country.
For BATV News, I'm Javon Keys.
The government has received 3 bids for a public-private partnership for the Norman Manley International Airport. The pre-qualified bidders are the Mexico-based Grupo Aeroportuario del Pacífico, SAB-CV, and 2 consortiums, including local players Corporación del Este, SAS Consortium, consisting of Corporación del Este, SAS, China Harbor Engineering Company, Jamaica Producers Group, and others. While Aegis Projects Consortium consists of Aegis Projects, GK Capital Management, Sagicor Investments Jamaica, and Razzle Beck. The Ministry of Transport issued the request for proposal on June 19. All interested bidders undertook an extensive due diligence process to support the preparation and submission of their bids, which was due last Friday. The government will now review the proposals. They're expected to announce the preferred bidder in August and start the concession agreement by October. The Norman Manley International Airport is owned by the Airports Authority of Jamaica and is operated by its subsidiary NMIA Airports Limited. The Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, JHTA, is strongly refuting the claim that hotels only purchase a small portion of their agricultural inputs locally. In a statement over the weekend, the JHTA says the 2015 Tourism Demand Study conducted by the Ministry of Tourism shows that the vast majority of them spend less than 10% of their total expenditure on agricultural products on imports. It says this percentage is even higher for smaller properties who source all their agricultural produce locally. The JHTA says a new demand study is now being carried out, and they anticipate that the percentage for locally grown agricultural produce purchased by the industry will increase significantly. The association says they've done a great deal to ensure that local communities and the agricultural sector are integrated into the tourism value chain. They say their members have conducted farmers programs where they've channeled and created demand for local products among staff and customers, supported the supply side to deliver the quality and quantities required, and established communication structures between supply and demand. The University of the West Indies, UWI, has been ranked among the top 40 universities in Latin America and the Caribbean. The ranking comes from the UK-based Times Higher Education, THE. THE ranks UWI number 37 out of the best 129 universities in its 2018 rankings. The company ranks the world's most influential universities based on rigorous criteria. This includes teaching, research, citations, international outlook, and industry income. In a statement today, UWI says the ranking comes after 2 years of intense effort and strategic interventions. UWI Vice Chancellor Sir Hilary Beckles says while they're pleased, the university cannot rest until it reaches the top 10 status in the next 10 years. And when we come back, we'll tell you what the Industry and Commerce Minister is doing to get more local products offered for sale at the nation's airports. This and more after the break. Welcome back. Minister of Industry and Commerce Audley Shaw is calling for more local products at the nation's airports. The minister, who recently toured the Jamaica Business Development Corporation JBDC Incubator and Resources Center, says he's disappointed at the minimal exposure for quality products handmade by Jamaicans. Minister Shaw says he's impressed by the quality goods and services offered by the clients at the institution.
The standards that the JBDC sets are consistent, of course, with international standards. For instance, you have the ISO 9000, ISO 14,000 standards that can allow for products that are produced in Jamaica to be compliant with global standards for trading and exports. And the work that JBDC does is consistent with this. And so what it can do is allow our business people to be not just competitive in the local market, but they can be competitive in the regional and third country markets as well.
He says while the center may have the resources, skills, and equipment to help clients, more assistance is needed after they've completed their training. That's why he's calling for help from the tourism industry to market these untapped local talents.
At least one of our airports now, it is dominated by just foreign goods that are being sold there, and very little of our Jamaican-produced goods are being sold right now in the departure lounge of the Sangster International Airport. And I intend to target that as something that cannot be acceptable. Our international airport, we have a limited access to products made in Jamaica, whether those are food products, other manufactured items, or craft items. These items need to be available at critical points, including our airports. So it is something I am targeting, and I'm doing that along with the JBDC in that process.
Meanwhile, the JBDC Incubator and Resources Center says it's ready to push the limits within the craft, fashion and food industry with commitments from the Industry and Commerce Minister Audley Shaw. The minister toured the facility for the first time last Friday. Here's Jamila Maitland with more.
The center specializes in agro-processing, fashion and apparel, gift and craft, visual communications, engineering, and food services for micro, small, and medium-sized businesses. CEO of the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, JBDC, Val Rivera, says the hour-long visit showcased the work of clients, a success for the 80-year-old facility.
The important thing for me is that you recognize the impact we are having on the development of the sector. He recognized the kind of support that is required for them to advance. Most of all, he recognized and acknowledged that we need more resources to move the sector forward. You know, I'm just delighted to hear that part of it.
She explains that the facility has several qualified persons to offer advice and assistance to clients. Nigerian artist Alo Lukman, who volunteers at the facility, says while Jamaica has several great crafters, the industry remains untapped. He says he and his team from Nigeria will address this in coming workshops. Mr. Lukman specializes in metal craft and fashion.
Jamaican, they've not started as in doing this kind of technique. I didn't see this kind of technique there. Even though for the period of time I've come here in Jamaica, I discovered so many things in which I think if we work together, we'll be able to teach them some of this technique and how to make use of most of these things. Even though in terms of batik and all this material, I think I didn't see it up here in Jamaica. I did not start there. Most of the ones that are in Jamaica, they brought them from Africa, and they always believe the African print, African batik, African design. I think by the time we walk towards it and all this design, we'll be able to teach them how they can do their own design in Jamaica, and they call it Jamaican design, not African design.
Meanwhile, fashion instructor Robert Hall says his fashion ward turns concept into physical products. He says the ward is now full.
Most persons seem to be, have the designs part, in order. But in terms of production, there is a challenge in terms of finding the right team or the right set of people, along with the machinery. Well, less the machinery, but basically that context actually allow them to actually do the multiple pieces to actually be able to put it in a store or to be able to have the customer access. So that is what we're actually trying to address with the incubator right here. However, along with that, then either officer will also, I'm actually here to help you along with our business advisory officers to help you to actually work out the business side as well as your design side in terms of, let's say, what will that collection be and how exactly are you going to set up that collection for profitability, because at the end of the day, that is, that's the point. If there's no profitability, there's no sustainability.
For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
Minister of Science and Technology Dr. Andrew Wheatley is asking for a detailed report surrounding service disruptions from Flow last Friday. Customers reported issues sending and receiving phone calls, text messages, as well as internet-related communications, including GPS. It lasted as long as 3 hours. Minister Wheatley says he's written to the Managing Director of Flow Jamaica, Stephen Price, asking for details surrounding the service disruption. The minister has also written to the Office of Utilities Regulation, OUR, asking them to urgently investigate and report the findings to him. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, is projecting 1.6% growth for the region by the end of the year. The IMF released its regional economic outlook for Latin America and the Caribbean today. They say while some within the region continue to recover, some larger economies are struggling, making recovery tougher because market pressure at the global level has been amplified by country-specific vulnerabilities. The IMF says economic activity in Latin America continues to recover. Following the pickup in domestic demand led by consumption in 2017, investment is finally gathering strength. Overall, the region is expected to grow by 1.6% in 2018 and 2.6% in 2019, up from their projections of 1.3% in 2017, but down from their April projections. The IMF says economic prospects for the Caribbean are generally improving, supported by higher U.S. growth. Reconstruction from the devastating hurricanes of 2017 in tourism-dependent countries has been largely delayed so far, but the IMF says that's expected to pick up in 2019. It says rising commodity prices are projected to lead to moderate growth for commodity exporters in 2018 and 19. David Noel is the new president of the Jamaica Bankers Association, JBA. Noel is president and CEO of Scotia Group Jamaica. He's also senior vice president and head of the Caribbean Central and North. He was unanimously elected at the JBA's annual general meeting on Thursday. Noel takes over from Nigel Holness, managing director of First Caribbean International Bank. Others elected on Thursday were Jerome Smalling, CEO at JMMB Bank as Vice President, and Mariam McIntosh Robinson, President and CEO at First Global Bank as Treasurer. Weldon Madden, Chief Operating Officer at MF&G Trust, was returned as Honorary Secretary. And when we come back, thousands take to the streets in Argentina as the country hosts the G20 summit. This and more in regional and international news up next. Welcome back. Time now for Talking Stocks. 53 stocks traded today, of which 22 advanced, 27 declined, and 4 traded firm. The main JSE index declined by 3,360 points to close at over 305,000 points. The junior index also declined by 5 points to close at 3,046 points. 4.9 million units traded, valued at almost $100 million on the Jamaican dollar market. And on the U.S. dollar market, 45,000 units traded, valued at $7,426 US dollars. Carreras, with 1.3 million units trading, accounted for 26% of market volume. Scotia Group, with more than 775,000 units trading, was second, and Siboney Group, with 707,000 units trading, accounted for 14% of market volume. Siboney Group was the top advancer, up 1 cent to close at 8 cents, followed by Proven Investments US dollars, up 1 cent to close at 17 cents, and Phosphorus Company, up 12 cents to close at $2.75. The main decliners were Portland JSX Limited Ordinary Shares, down $1.02 to close at $8, followed by Blue Power Group, down $4.01 to close at $35.99, and Caribbean Cement down $3.09 to close at $38.91. In foreign exchange trading, the Jamaican dollar made ground on the British pound. However, it lost ground to the U.S. and Canadian dollar. The U.S. dollar sold for $133.38, gaining 42 cents on the Jamaican dollar. The Canadian sold for $103.94, gaining $2.70 on the Jamaican dollar, and the British pound sold for $171.64, losing 79 cents on the Jamaican dollar. And that's the news. But before we go, a recap of our top story. Prime Minister Andrew Holness makes historic trip to Namibia, forging stronger trade ties and securing visa-free travel to the country for Jamaicans. Thanks for watching. For more content, visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Pleasant viewing. Welcome back. Time now for regional and international news. Repair works at the Desalination Company of Trinidad and Tobago have been completed. The plant is expected to be fully operational in a week's time. Here's more from CTV News.
The desal plant in its optimum capacity supplies 45 million gallons of water per day. With recent repairs, the Ministry of Public Utilities says that the plant is now up to supplying 25 million gallons per day and is expected to be operating at full capacity by later this week. But the water challenges which the ministry faces is a representation of a mounting need to revamp the Water and Sewage Authority. This according to the minister in charge, Robert Lahunt, who says some $2.2 billion is needed to take WASA to the standard that it should be.
To fix WASA, you have to not just look at storage. You have to look at increasing production. You have to look at fixing some of the transmission lines. You have to look at increasing storage. You have to look at introducing meters.
He says efforts to increase storage have already begun.
We just, for example, in the case of storage, we just basically put 2 tanks, all right, up at, we increased the capacity in storage in the Hololo area. And if I'm not mistaken, that was done at a cost of about 15 million TT dollars.
And while he admits that the ministry and WASA must lead the charge in taking Trinidad and Tobago closer towards international standards, Minister Lahunt says citizens also have an important role to play in the way they conserve water.
The habits that we have developed as a citizen in Trinidad and Tobago, as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, in our use of water is not in keeping with international standards. The average usage of water by Trinidadians is about twice the level of what is done in other first world countries.
Production challenges began last Tuesday when the plant experienced electrical problems which were rectified by Saturday. In addition, the El Socorro booster also experienced problems on Friday, which affected 30 million gallons from the Caroni treatment plant coming north. That booster has since been repaired. Janine Brown, C News.
Thousands have taken to the streets in Argentina to make their voices heard during a visit by Christine Lagarde, head of the International Monetary Fund, IMF. Ms. Lagarde is in Buenos Aires attending a meeting of G20 finance ministers. Here's more.
Left-wing groups gathered to protest against the International Monetary Fund in Buenos Aires on Saturday. Last month, the IMF stepped in to shore up the Argentinian economy with a $50 billion loan agreement. But people like Vilma Ripoll believe it won't help improve people's lives.
We already had the IMF and a crisis. We know what happened in Greece. They will fire state employees, they will reduce salaries and take away workers' rights. What else do they want?
Argentina's economy has been struggling in recent months due to a drop in investor confidence in emerging economies. The peso currency lost over 40% of its value, and inflation has continued to rise.
These people are protesting just a few blocks away from where the G20 finance ministers and central bank governors are meeting, but they were prevented from getting closer by security forces. These people that you can see here are hoping that Christine Lagarde, the director of the IMF who's in Buenos Aires, will hear their message and their fears that the austerity measures implemented by the government of Mauricio Macri will generate more poverty and unemployment.
But Christine Lagarde, who came to attend the G20 summit, showed strong support with what Mauricio Macri is trying to do.
There has been significant progress in terms of monetary policy as well, where clearly the measures that have been taken by the bank have restored and managed a much better situation with less volatility, more transparency.
Protests because of policies suggested by the IMF are not unique to Argentina. There has been strong opposition in countries like Jordan and Haiti. International NGOs like Oxfam and others have suggested that the IMF should rethink its standard recipes that take away power from labor unions, do not help lower unemployment, and demand reduction of government spending, which leads, in most cases, to an increase in poverty levels.
La esencia del fondo sigue siendo la misma.
The essence of the IMF is the same. It is to prioritise the fiscal deficit, prioritise austerity measures. It's the same old IMF with a change in discourse. Look at what's happening in other parts of the world, like Jordan and Haiti.
And that's why many here are distrustful of the current government's economic policies, because they believe it will only deteriorate the lives of those who need government help the most. Teresa Bo, Al Jazeera, Buenos Aires.
Global finance leaders have ended a G20 meeting with little consensus on how to resolve escalating disputes over U.S. trade tariffs. They called on Sunday to step up dialogue to prevent geopolitical tensions, but warned that growth, while still strong, was becoming less synchronized. Here's more.
Global finance leaders have ended a G20 meeting with little consensus on how to resolve escalating disputes over US trade tariffs. They called on Sunday to step up dialogue to prevent geopolitical tensions, but warned that growth, while still strong, was becoming less synchronized.
I would say the meeting has not been tense, and that all arguments were exchanged, and that at least we were in the, I would say, mutual listening mode. And I hope this is the beginning of something positive. But, well, this has to be confirmed, but still the positions are not similar.
A meeting between US President Donald Trump and European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker will be held this week, but the EU man will not take a specific trade offer to Washington.
President Trump has a meeting with Jean-Claude this week. We're looking forward to those discussions. But I think the message was very clear, which is people are trying to make this about the United States and protectionism. That's not the case at all. This is about the United States wanting free and fair trade.
The weekend talks in Buenos Aires came at a time of escalating rhetoric in the trade standoff between the United States and China, the world's largest economies.
And stay with us. Talking Stocks comes up next.